is that the Emperor of Ghana was the richest king on the face of the earth.
There is a city known as Eredo, E-R-E-D-O, that's located in Nigeria, that the brilliant scholar Robin Walker is coming out with information dealing with the idea that this, in Nigeria, is a city that is 400 square miles in elliptical shape, and the ramparts or the gates are 70 feet high, or what might be considered to be maybe a 7-story building. That's how big it is. And that was done somewhere in the 800s to 1000 AD. At the same time, 400 years later, in the 1400s and the 1500s, where folk are saying these people are primitive, this city exists in Nigeria.
Once Britain burned the palace and they colonized the region and then renamed it Nigeria, it wasn't called that before, they did not permit the Oba, that's the emperor of Benin, to rebuild the palace. So consequently, what's there now is the tiny fraction that escaped being burned down.
We look at cities that were larger than cities in Europe at that time. We look at cities that had the equivalent of ancient skyscrapers, buildings that were 4 or 5 stories tall. We look at cities with streets. We look at cities with sewer systems. We look at cities, nations that had universities, that had libraries, that had a upper class, a solid middle class, architects, engineers, physicians, dentists, a city that would rival any other city in the world at that time.
Well, the Emperor of Ghana, we know, lived in a castle with glass windows. We know this because there's an 1153 AD document that tells us that there were glass windows.
We've got Kano in parts of Nigeria. We've got the great Chad Basin civilizations. We got civilizations along the Congo that we don't even talk about. And what's ironic, in the 1700s, and you can actually go online and find some of them, the Europeans who go to the Congo come back home and draw pictures, which is in their museums, of these magnificent metropolis, these cities with streets laid out in grids and paved. They found the same thing in Benin, they found the same thing in Kumasi. But these same Europeans, especially the British and the French, will burn and sack most of these cities.
A Polish scholar called Z.R. Dmytrowski did a survey of Nigerian ancient monuments and wrote 3-volume architectural book called An Introduction to Traditional Nigerian Architecture, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Now that's important, you see, because most people wouldn't have thought that Nigeria had anything to be able to fill 3 volumes. Which brings me on to Benin. Benin is in the southern part of Nigeria. Now, Benin's architecture was very famous in medieval times. In particular, its royal palace. Its royal palace was the same size as whole European cities, just the palace.